for the Deaf Commission to be in January 2017, not 2016, I almost misspelled that, but yeah, 2017, we're going to also submit that in that legislative cycle. So his staff has provided some information on what that looks like for example, comparing other deaf commissions around the country, what administrative rules would be required in the law, and so his staff has this information. And I remember at Deaf Awareness Week, Wisconsin, we had a lot of everything ready that we are going to make this happen come January, but it's going to be based on how much advocacy and lobbying we get from the community. So, but as far as ODHH, we are not sure what would happen in light of this, but we're going to have to wait and see because, of course, our deaf community wants people to have an opportunity to be heard and to have advocacy roles in the state, which is currently not being provided. So that if we actually make file a grievance, that it is being heard and it is being followed through.
So again, this would be something that the legislative task force would have to look into, because what if both laws or proposals are introduced, one passes, one doesn't? So, it's a chicken or egg problem. One has to, I love you. All right. All right. But you have to have the Deaf Commission first if this is something that we want in the interpreter license. I guess that's what I'm getting at, is the point there. And just a clarification, I just want to make sure that in DSPS, they are required to provide the service fund and TEP. It is in the purview of DSPS to create ODHH. So if ODHH was to go away, the state would still be responsible for those services. Where they would put those services is up in the air. So those services, the limited services that ODHH provide, would not go away. It would just be held somewhere differently. Okay. Other feedback regarding the recommendations that we've made today. Make one last comment. Come on up, Sean.
Hi, my name is Sean Alvarez. Oh, let me move on over here. Everybody see me? Awesome. So I do have a question. As was stated, the task force is kind of wrapping up. We're going to be moving on to more of a legislative task force. Now, I don't know if we can speak for them or anything else, but I think the objective was to propose the bill, our groundwork by January. Will we see more meetings or more transparency with this legislative group? I know we're still to talk with Wizard and WA to come together and join this, but will we see as transparent as we are seeing with this task force? That's my question.
So this is Jane. I am intentionally stepping out of the interpreter role. I just wanted to comment on the legislative task force. So I'm curious, if we have involvement with the Deaf Commission, can we also be involved in the legislative task force, or is there a conflict of interest there? Do they need to be separated? That is my question.
Okay.
No, I got it.
It's just not a good clicker. Click very well. To answer your question with the legislative task force, I can't speak to that, Sean. It depends on who's on the task force, and I appreciate that you recognize that we were trying to be as transparent as possible with all the things that we share, the videos, the minutes. It would be my hope that the new legislative task force would do the same, right? Because there's a lot at stake here. Regarding what's happening with the Deaf Commission, it does seem to make sense that this legislative task force would work with the Deaf Commission. And does it mean that we wait until the Deaf Commission is enacted and then propose interpreter licensure? I don't know. My fear is if we have the momentum now, a lot of the work has been done now, and if we don't continue with that momentum, we lose all that work that we've done. So that's my fear with that. Does that answer? So I'm trying to answer your question, and I'm trying to answer your question. So I really can't answer your question, Sean. That really depends on the makeup of the task force. But I assume WAD and Whispered, who picked this task force, would have the same expectations for the legislative task force. And Christina said yes. That's what she wants too. And so does Katie, but she doesn't know it. All right, I'll take one more comment. Yep, come on, Elizabeth.
Wait for it. Oh, I almost forgot. Yes. I was reading some of the minutes from one of the past meetings. Someone had asked, interpreters who graduate and move to other states, and about, matching the requirements, and I thought about that. So, why are they moving out of state? And we're not retaining interpreters in state. So, is there some way we can ask why interpreters are moving out of state and they're not staying here in Wisconsin? I mean, myself, I'm going to be moving next year. And it's a reason because, people ask me why. And you kind of wonder, is it related to the community and the ability to get gainful employment? Are the expectations here in Wisconsin a little too high? Or am I not able to work? Am I not able to gain that confidence to become employed? Again, like we go back to, I went to college for 5 years. Spending all that money on student loans and books and everything. And people expect that you graduate, you should be ready to work, but we're told we're not in this field. Now, if I move to another state, they're like, come on, we welcome you. Open arms and all. We need the interpreters. But here in Wisconsin, it's almost saying we don't need you. The climate right now I'm getting is that sometimes, I'm not alone in this feeling. Other interpreters move out of state as soon as they graduate because the climate here is not welcoming and supportive enough. So what are we going to do to address that and resolve that? I mean, we claim there's not enough interpreters, and we often say there's a shortage, but I want you to really consider the reason behind that.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback. I can certainly pull together data from our interpreting training program. A lot of the students that move out of state are from out of state. So they either come from Minnesota, Illinois, Missouri. And one of the biggest reasons that I hear interpreters move out of state is because they hate the cold weather of Wisconsin. Honestly. That's the feedback that I've given. It's like, I'm going to Florida, I'm going to Texas, anywhere other than this miserable state. I hate the winters. So honestly, that's a lot. That is anecdotal, but I can certainly quantify that. The other thing is that requirements in other states are easier. There are some states don't even have license requirements. That is a reality. And so, hopefully we, in the state of Wisconsin, have instilled in you, our interpreting training programs have instilled in you a good moral compass so that you can develop that judgment to say, I can handle this, I'm appropriate for this. Because it's really tempting in this national shortage with a crisis to go, when someone is welcoming you with open arms, you're just, the danger is that you're a warm body and you can fill that position, right? And so, it's finding that balance of, am I skilled, am I ready, am I appropriate, as opposed to they're so desperate that they'll take anybody. And I know that's happening in other states. Texas is one of them, where I placed a student there last year for an internship. The woman that I spoke to in the school district, the Plano School District, which is known for a huge school for the deaf, lots of deaf students are being served in that area. They need 90 educational interpreters that they cannot fill. So yes, graduating students, go to Texas. And, you know, I mean, and I'm not trying, I'm saying you have options, right? And so I think in the state of Wisconsin, we have protected our community. We want to make sure there are standards in place. But again, Elizabeth, I hear you. You know, that makes, how do we support our graduates so that they can work here in our state?
Same with law school, the same idea. Once that graduation, they take the bar, they have to pass that. It's the same idea. We're just repeating it for the CDI.
So Mike's just reiterating that oftentimes there are tons of people that try and sit for the bar after having paid for law school and they fail. It's the same thing. Some people just don't work.
Does anybody else want to respond to that? Elizabeth, you absolutely can respond, but anybody else have anything they want to add to her comments, or?
That student I know who went to Texas, the school actually paid for her to go to workshops often. They wanted her to get better. They paid for her training. They paid for her exams. They paid for her to take the BEI. They helped her. They supported her. They got her through. Now, in Wisconsin, the support after post-graduation, where is it? And I feel like we get lost.
Just to clarify, she was hired though, and so lots of school districts do provide professional development and training for their interpreters, and that's how they get the support. So I don't want to, so the point being, we need to support our interpreters. All right, Scotty, one last comment and then we're wrapping it up.
I get the argument of student loans. $40,000 in debt? So sure. $64,000 in debt for my master's. It's worse for me. I got my BA from UW-M in linguistics, and then I went to Gallaudet for my graduate studies and deaf studies. So I have these degrees. I mean, in terms of what do I do with that, it's paper, certainly. I still take workshops, I still get mentoring and additional training and so forth. I have my certification for it, my R80 certification. When I started interpreting, I started in Rochester, interpreter clarification, Richmond, Virginia. I had no experience, but I started out part-time as an educational interpreter. They wanted someone who could sign, and I certainly could do that, but I didn't have any ethics training. Stuff would come up on the job with the student, and I would have to figure it out. Virginia struggles to hire educational interpreters, that is true. The state assessment there in Virginia, the VQAS, Virginia Quality Assurance Screening, their test, it's comparable to our WIDA, they have a tiered system. 0 means your accuracy is less than 50% when you're interpreting. So yes, they have a scarcity, but they still allow people with 50% accuracy to work, if you can imagine that. And I knew that. I knew that Virginia was easier to get into, and that's part of the reason why I went there. But at the same time, I knew that the program, the education I received was good. There are good interpreting programs out there that teach you ethics, skills, teach you how to go into work. But in a school setting, feeling isolated and how to make decisions on my own was my experience. So I struggled. I didn't have support there either. So I feel your pain. But I'm sure that that person who got the job in Texas might feel that way too. So you don't know. And that was my experience.
Okay, to wrap things up here, all right, in order to wrap things up here, I appreciate your recommendations. My overall sense is there's not a lot of objections to what we have proposed, which I'm glad. Yay, that's good. So what I think we'll do, I will share the recommendations with the committee, we can make some updates, and then we'll pass it on to the legislative task force. If you are interested, like I said before, please contact WAD and Worcester, that's both Katie and Christina, and let them know of your interest, and we will then update the community as to what the next steps are going to be at this point. I appreciate your feedback, I appreciate your insights, I appreciate you coming to these meetings. I know it's been a rough path, but I hope that in this next year, things will start to look better. Thank you.